Do I really need to say what we're doing today? So I'm thinking about the history of donuts. So this is completely my take on this whole thing. Some guy's alarm goes off, right? It's like 10:53 a.m. He sits straight up out of bed like Frankenstein and says to himself, but out loud, I don't want no damn Wheaties for breakfast. I want fried cake. So he walks off into the kitchen to whip up some fried cake. First time anyone's ever making this. He's in the kitchen, sweating, just going after it, just trying to make something up. He's dropping, dough left and right into oil, making something. He finally comes up with something. This is hours. He's finally got some stuff to show for all his hard work. Out of nowhere, his roommate just pops in, intruding like, what are these? He stops what he's doing and he's like, do not. The roommate is, the roommate's like, do not. And he's like, yes, do not. And the roommate, I mean, he's already into it. He's going after it. He's the roommate picks one up and he's like, man, these do nots are really good. Although you might want to consider calling them something different. It sounded like you were saying do not, like do not touch. Do not. That's how they came up with it. Let's start out with whipping up the dough. And yes, this is the all-time champion of doughs, Sir Everything Dough. But this time, let's talk about what's going to be done slightly different. So, nothing's going to change on the recipe itself, but since there's a particular goal we're going for, we need to be mindful as we're bringing this together. We want our dough to be fluffy and not overly chewy. So instead of working with 3 to 4 cups of flour, we're going to work with about 3 to 3.5 cups of flour. We're looking to make the dough slightly more sticky than our typical everything dough. Also, if you have some bread flour on hand, you can maybe use 1 to 2 cups of this along with 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Bread flour is a little easier to hold shapes, so it's beneficial when needing to cut out the donuts. So during the first rise, which should take roughly about 90 minutes to 2 hours, I like to refrigerate the dough 20 to 30 minutes before I pull it out to work with. So cold dough is easier to work with and easier to shape. Generously flour your surface and roll the dough out to roughly about just under 1/2 inch. From here, use whatever household item is circular and can get the job done. I ended up using a lid from a mason jar. Just like making sugar cookies, cut the dough with your mold or jar lid, in my case, as close as you can to each other. When making holes in the center of your donut, use the holes to make donut holes, or you could even use that dough and just fold it back into the uncut dough that's left over. This way you can extend it a little further and make even more donuts. To make donuts that you can stuff, just don't make holes in the center of the donut. Add everything onto a parchment lined baking sheet and allow to rise about another 20 to 30 minutes. While your donuts are rising, here's your opportunity to make the frosting. So I made 3 types of donuts. For the traditional donut, I'm making a glaze here with just a few ingredients. For the donut holes, I just dumped them into powdered sugar and rolled them a little bit in order to get them covered. And for the donuts that I wanted to fill, I just made a chocolate frosting, which you'll see closer to the end. Now that the donuts are ready, you want to use vegetable oil or canola oil to fry them in. The process is fairly quick if you have the right temperature. You're looking for your temperature of your oil to be somewhere between 330 degrees Fahrenheit to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature is good because it allows the donuts to cook fairly quickly and not soak up like a ton of the oil within the dough. Cook the donuts until golden brown. Should take roughly between 30 to 40 seconds on each side. Well, this is it. If you're doing glazed donuts, all you're doing is dunking the donut into the glaze and allowing it to set up for a few minutes. If you're doing a filled donut, you're just going to poke a hole in the middle of the donut, then use a piping bag to fill it with any flavor of your choice. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and share. Remember to be safe, believe in good, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a ton.